In Brazil, the electoral campaign for the October 2nd presidential elections advances. From Sao Paulo, candidate Lula da Silva condemned the atmosphere of hatred after a second political assassination. The United Kingdom begins 10 days of mourning following the death of Queen Elizabeth II, while King Charles III was proclaimed at St. James Palace. The Russian Defense Ministry confirmed the redeployment of troops from multiple locations across Ukraine's Kharkov region to achieve the goals of the special military operation. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Former President and presidential candidate Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva held a campaign rally in Taboão de Serra, a popular region on the outskirts of Sao Paulo. The All Together for Brazil political coalition event started at 11 a.m. local time, with the participation of former President Lula, former Governor of Sao Paulo Geraldo Alckmin, and the Workers' Party candidate for the state government Fernando Haddad. Former President Lula, during his speech, assured that the role of the government is to guarantee opportunities to the people to achieve their goals. Lula also blamed President Jair Bolsonaro for the death of lumberjack Benedito Cardoso dos Santos at the hands of one of Bolsonaro's followers. Violence and conflicts leave hundreds of thousands displaced people in Mexico, says an UN rapporteur. According to preliminary observations by Cecilia Jimenez Damari, the crime, disasters, mining, illegal logging, and local conflicts are the main problems. The expert in the human rights of internally displaced people arrived in the country on August 29th to visit 4 Mexican districts and meet with authorities and activists to learn about the situation of those who are forced to leave their places of origin. Jimenez Damari also explained that the federal government does not have statistics, but that secondary sources such as organizations, academics, and local authorities gave her estimates that there would be between 350,000 and 400,000 internally displaced people in Mexico, with 126 million inhabitants.
Although indigenous peoples and communities represent only 10% of the total population of Mexico, more than 40% of the displacement in the displacement episodes registered by civil society in 2020 affect indigenous peoples. 20%.
Guatemala's Municipal Fire Department reported that at least 6 people were killed by unknown individuals in La Verbena neighborhood located in the country's capital. Local authorities reported that the attackers fired multiple shots inside the vehicle where the victims were traveling. Likewise, police officers stated that among those killed were a 5-year-old child, 3 men, and 2 women. Meanwhile, the neighbors confirmed they heard the gunshots and said those responsible were 2 individuals who fled the scene on a motorcycle. So far, the National Police presumed the possible cause of the incident to be a direct attack between gangs. As at least 2 people a week throw themselves off bridges in Quito, Ecuador, the city installs cabins on site with psychologists and patrols to try to prevent people from committing suicide. Since May, 36 suicide attempts have been stopped on the bridges over the Chiche and Gualo rivers. The reaction teams are in white cabins with stretcher and first aid kits. They travel the bridges from end to end at night. Alerts are generated from ECU 911, the National Security Service, which so far this year has reported 300 suicides nationwide and 508 self-harm attempts. Medical care in public hospitals for depressive episodes climbed from 63,000 in 2019 to 117,000 in 2021. The psychologists agree that during their rounds on the bridge they have encountered people who stop at the small booth looking for someone to listen to them. The World Health Organization reports that some 700,000 people take their own lives worldwide each year.
The strategy, We Are a Bridge of Life, is a program designed to prevent suicide. Statistics from the city of Quito show that in different sectors of the city, suicide is carried out in different ways. Here, in the Chiche Bridge, it has traditionally been a place where people have decided to commit suicide.
During a press conference, Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley referred to the nation's interest with the International Monetary Fund, declaring that discussions and relations are to be resumed, as these are very difficult and uncertain times.
Discussions should they start and be successful, will probably make available to us in the vicinity the equivalent of about 130 million US, or what is the equivalent of 90% of quota. But more importantly, what it does is that it unlocks for us access to a new facility that the International Monetary Fund has established, largely as a result of our own urgings. It is not perfect in the way it has been designed and structured, but it is a long way from that which has anything else that exists for middle-income countries such as ourselves.
The director of Israel's National Intelligence Agency, Mossad, warned the United States about the nuclear agreement with Iran. The director of the Israeli Intelligence Agency, David Bernea, held meetings with senior U.S. officials and handed over highly classified material. Bernea reiterated to the U.S. officials that Tel Aviv will not stand idly by while the Washington-Iran nuclear agreement is being advanced. Meanwhile, the U.S. government reiterated that it will not allow Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon, while assuring that it remains committed to Israel's security. In early September, Israel's Prime Minister Yair Lapid declared that he will continue to pressure the United States not to return to the Iranian nuclear deal. Let us take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back from the South. The United Kingdom began a 10-day mourning shortly after an announcement from Buckingham Palace declared the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, while King Charles III was officially proclaimed at St. James Palace. According to official sources, the Royal Guard will take the Queen's body from Balmoral Castle, located in Scotland, to Westminster Abbey in London, where her funeral will take place in approximately 2 weeks. The Buckingham Palace assured that in the next few days they will announce the exact date of the ceremony. Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Liz Truss stated that the leadership of King Charles III will bring a new and hopeful period for the nation. So far, several former ministers and representatives of the United Kingdom showed their respect and joined the minute of silence in honor of Queen Elizabeth II. In the United Kingdom, a demonstration of the Black Lives Matter movement gathered this Saturday in front of Parliament to reject the murder of Chris Kaba by the Metropolitan Police. The 24-year-old was shot dead on Monday night in South London after being arrested in the middle of a police operation. The victim's mother led the mobilization, which was attended by an estimated 4,000 to 5,000 people. Demonstrators demanded the suspension of the policeman responsible for the murder and demanded greater protection for people of color. Meanwhile, the new Prime Minister Liz Truss asked demonstrators to respect the official mourning. The Russian President Vladimir Putin assured that Moscow plans to increase grain supplies to the poorest country. The Russian head of state said during a meeting of the Security Council that Moscow will supply 30 million tons of grain to the needy countries by the end of the year. In this context, the president affirmed that the Russian producers of potassium fertilizers are ready to deliver them free of charge to the nations that need them the most, as part of the international solidarity. The head of state also said that Russia has done everything possible to ensure the export of Ukrainian grain. On Friday, Josef Sikela, Minister of Industry and Trade of the Czech Republic, asked for time for the EU to put an energy price cap in place during a press conference in Brussels.
There is a prevailing view of the countries that we need, as an emergency measure, a certain cap, but please give to Commission and us a little bit more time to fine-tune where properly in the sequence the cap should be implemented.
The Russian Defense Ministry confirmed the redeployment of troops from multiple locations across Ukraine's Kharkov region.
Russian troops that operate near Balakleya and Izum are to be redeployed for reinforcement at Donetsk direction in order to reach pre-established objectives of the special military operation. With this purpose, the Izum-Balakleya group of troops had been redeployed to the Donetsk People's Republic within 72 hours. Various deceptive and demonstrative maneuvers had been carried out, marking real action of the troops within the above-mentioned operation. The enemy had been under powerful fire attacks with the involvement of aviation, missile troops and artillery for preventing any damage to Russian troops. Over 2,000 Ukrainian and foreign militants, as well as more than 100 units of armored equipment and artillery have been eliminated within 72 hours.
Ukrainian local authorities refused to receive power from Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in Kiev-controlled regions. According to Vladimir Rogov, a representative of the Zaporizhzhia military administration, the Ukrainian authorities have unilaterally stopped accepting power from the plant, despite the fact that the plant has the technical capacity to continue supplying it. According to Rogov, Ukraine does not accept electricity as a deliberate, provocative measure aimed at disabling and stopping the plant's operation. The Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant has been under the military protection of Russian forces in March, and Moscow assures that it maintains its presence at the facility to protect its physical integrity and prevent the leakage of nuclear material. On the same subject, in the Donbas region, at least 8 people were killed and 27 wounded in the last 24 hours by Ukrainian shelling of the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic. According to defense authorities, the figures correspond to the period between 8 a.m. on Friday, September 9th and 8 a.m. on Saturday, September 10th. The mercenary forces fighting under the command of Kiev carried out constant attacks on infrastructure and civilian population of the territories of Donetsk and Lugansk. And teleSUR will dedicate its coverage of the Football World Cup Qatar 2022 to the figure of Diego Armando Maradona, who accompanied our crew in the last 2 World Cups. With the football star, we also tour our continent with the show teleSUR da Viajero. We want this tribute to have its own music. With this in mind, we invite you to write and compose a song for teleSUR's coverage of Qatar 2022 Football World Cup. It must be an original song never recorded before or published in any media and free of legal attachments. Record the song in any format, even with your cell phone, and send it as an attachment to comunicaciones@telesurtv.net with the following information: author's name, nationality, and name of the song. The closing date for the call for entries is this Saturday, September 10th. A jury of prestigious musicians and composers from the region will select the winning piece. The prize will be the recording of the song, together with a video clip and the wide diffusion of the work. 1 week after the closing of the call, teleSUR will announce the results. We have more news coming up after a final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back from the south. In China, rescue and relief operations continue on the Mid-Autumn Festival 5 days after a devastating earthquake jolted Lurin, a county in Sichuan province. In addition to large landslides incurred by the earthquake, the rescuers still face multiple problems that hinder the work, such as extreme weather. The earthquake-hit areas will be hit by rains in the next 3 days, which will make it harder for the rescue operation. The 200 tourist and scenic area workers trapped at the Heilugu have been delivered, and 24 regimental police officers who went missing during the rescue mission were also found and transferred to safe ground Saturday morning. As of Friday, the deadly 6.8 magnitude earthquake has killed at least 88 people, injured more than 400 others, and left 30 others missing. In China, the National Health Commission said Saturday that mainland had administered more than 3.4 billion doses of COVID-19 vaccine as of Friday. The Chinese mainland reported 239 confirmed locally transmitted COVID-19 cases and 51 imported ones on Friday, said the Commission in its daily report on Saturday. 49 of the local cases and 4 of the imported ones were recategorized as confirmed cases from asymptomatic ones. No new deaths from COVID-19 or additional suspected cases were reported on the day. In Mali, authorities report clashes between rival groups east of the country. Preliminary reports speak of dozens of civilians killed. Authorities reported that the civilians were killed by terrorist groups in the town of Talataye in the northeast of the country. The town, which is at the crossroads of influence of the irregular groups, was allegedly attacked by fighters of the self-styled Islamic State. So far, officials do not know the exact number of dead. In fact, only partial reports from various local sources provide information on the humanitarian tragedy in the town. The United Nations Refugee Agency and partners originally required $68 million for life-saving assistance and services for almost 100,000 refugees who have fled to Uganda so far this year. Women and children, especially girls, are the ones mostly affected.
Especially girls face a high risk of dropping out of school, as UNHCR will be unable to pay teachers' salaries and already crowded classrooms would increase in size. With no more funding to procure soap and hygiene kits for women and girls, their health and access to education will be negatively affected.
teleSUR English continues to grow its sale and reaches Europe. You can order from your cable dealer or tune it yourself. These parameters that you see on the screen are in place since July 1st, and quite soon further changes will be implemented for the signals in the Middle East and Africa. Now more than ever, the world connects to us and our stories are heard in other faraway nations. This news multi-platform will continue providing truthful content to oppose the hegemonic media's narrative and our faithfulness to our audience. Now we have come to the end of this newspaper. From you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. And now you can also follow us on TikTok at the account at teleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. For teleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.